Welcome to the Book of Recaps. Today, I'm going to explain the series Channel Zero. The episode opens with Tom and Jill, a newlywed couple, celebrating their new life in Tom's childhood home, a gift from Tom's mother. Over a couple of drinks and sushi, they are laughing and enjoying themselves. When they hear a knock from the basement, they go to check what caused it. The basement is full of boxes containing Tom's childhood memories with Jill, as they have known each other since childhood. Suddenly, a little dog appears from behind the closet and dashes upstairs, surprising Tom and Jill. They chase the dog, baffled and clueless as to where it came from and whether to keep it. Later that evening, Tom invites his friend Jason and his girlfriend to their place for dinner. They discuss memories from the past and also Jill's old drawings of a character she named Pretzel Jack, which they found in the basement. Jill elaborates that she had visited a circus and seen a contortionist. Inspired by him, she made her own contortionist clown character, which she would draw in the story she wrote. The next day, the couple goes to the store to get supplies. When Jill notices Tom talking to a woman, Sarah, she becomes suspicious. When they return home, Jill confronts Tom about the woman and asks if he has had an intimate relationship with her. Tom, who introduces Sarah as a client, is baffled at the accusation and reminds her that he is not her father, who abandoned her after cheating on her mom. Later, they reconcile after apologizing for what they said to each other. It is then that a mysterious door appears in the basement, and the couple is freaked out by this inexplicable appearance. To settle their nerves, Tom calls his friend Jason, who tries to open the door forcefully, but when nothing works, he brings out his shotgun and fires multiple shots, much to Tom's jealous horror. He only stops when the power goes out, but it does the trick, and the door opens. Inside, there's a stairway that leads to another door with a handprint on it. Jason is forbidden from using his gun again, and the three decide to ask their neighbor if they could see his basement, as they suspect that he might have created the passage to sneak into their house. However, they can't find anything suspicious in the neighbor's basement, and after apologizing, they leave. Over the next few days, they try everything to open the door and even call for help, but nothing can open that door. One day, alone in the house, Jill goes to the basement after hearing some noise. She reaches the second door and, on a whim, places her hand on the hand imprint, which surprisingly opens the door. She looks around and sees a terrifying clown that whips around and bends unnaturally before running past her. Jill immediately calls the police and tells them that the intruder was already inside the house. But at that moment, they can't do anything more than keep an eye on the house for the night. Jill has been in therapy to deal with her distrust of men because of the trauma she underwent in her childhood, and now Tom's meeting with a mystery woman makes Jill more suspicious of him. So, she decides to place her trust in another man, Jason, whom she asks for help to figure out what is going on in Tom's life. She visits Jason, but their conversation soon changes into an argument when Jason blames Jill for letting her past shadow cast on her current relationship. Jill defends herself, but Jason doesn't stop there and gaslights Jill until the scary clown emerges from the shadows and starts stabbing Jason. Jill screams for him to stop. The murder soon comes to light, and the investigating officers question a shell-shocked Jill at her home as she becomes the prime suspect in Jason's murder. But something the officer said strikes Jill, and that night she goes to the basement to look at the drawing pad that has many drawings of Pretzel Jack. She can't unsee the uncanny resemblance between the character she created and the clown that fatally attacked Jason haunts Jill. Since then, she has been having flashbacks from her childhood about a mysterious door that may or may not have existed in the house she lived in. Unable to remember, she decides to visit her childhood house to put an end to these recurring thoughts. The new owner graciously welcomes Jill, and while inside the house, she manages to sneak into her old room. However, she can't find the door she saw in her flashbacks. To cross-check if she missed it somehow, she sneaks into the house once the owner has gone out to walk her cat. Jill walks into her old room and tears down the wallpaper that covers where she saw the door. As she suspected, there is a smaller door behind the wallpaper, unlike the one in her current house. She opens the door and finds something peculiar inside that resembles a distorted human figure. Jill is now convinced that Pretzel Jack has somehow come to life. When she sees a glimpse of him in her bedroom, she screams for help. But when Tom checks, he finds no one there. He questions her sanity, and similarly, her therapist doesn't show any interest in what she's saying. Much to her chagrin, the therapist recommends medication, causing her to leave the session midway. When nobody believes her, Jill turns to yet another man, her neighbor Ian, who listens to her without judgment. Jill feels she can freely talk to him, so she confides in Ian about Pretzel Jack and how she believes she created the entity that killed Jason. Ian seems to understand her and presents his notion of the contortionist, describing him as her protector. He correlates his actions with Jill getting angry at people. He also confides in Jill and tells her that when he was a kid, he also drew himself a friend, a very tall character aptly named the Tall Boy. On the other hand, Tom has secrets of his own. He secretly gives Sarah's baby a toy at the park, and there's a mysterious woman with whom he occasionally meets and talks about Sarah. Tom mentions how much the baby looks like him, indicating that he might have fathered a child with her. These meetings are strange and unconventional therapy sessions that take place, where the woman provides Tom with a sensory deprivation pool to take his mind off the recent events and everything else happening in his life. However, it is weird that she has cameras installed in the therapy rooms, through which she keeps an eye on Tom without his knowledge. Meanwhile, Jill has just reached home after meeting with Ian. When Tom gets a call on his laptop, Jill decides to answer it since he's not home. She is shocked to hear a child crying in the background and a warning for Tom to stay away from her family, threatening to call the cops on him. Furious, Jill can't believe her suspicions are coming true. All this time, she was made to feel that she was in the wrong. Back at the anonymous woman's maze-like house, Pretzel Jack appears after Jill fails to control her anger and badly injures the woman who tries to shoot him, but to no avail. Pretzel Jack then makes his way to Tom, attacking him with a knife and trying to drown him. Tom fights back but gets stabbed in the chest while tackling the contortionist. The badly injured woman still has some strength left and fires at Pretzel Jack, allowing Tom to run. However, the shot doesn't do much damage, and Pretzel Jack twists his body to appear like a spider before putting himself back on his feet and following Tom. In the meantime, Tom gets into the woman's car but doesn't know how to drive a stick. Accidentally putting the car in reverse, he gets hit by a van once he reaches the main road. Pretzel Jack sees the accident and decides to leave for now. Jill soon receives a call from the hospital about Tom and gets ready to leave. However, she hears some noise from downstairs and finds the front door open. Feeling scared, she is suddenly relieved when Ian walks in with a dog, explaining that the dog had run out. Jill asks Ian to stay with her until she heads to the hospital, and he offers to drive her there. At the hospital, Tom is not happy to see Ian with Jill, and sensing the awkwardness, Jill asks Ian to leave. The couple is then visited by the police, who show them the recovered footage of the clown attacking Tom in the pool. They have also identified the mysterious woman who turns out to be a doula. The police are curious to know how Tom knew her since she never advertised her therapy sessions anywhere. When questioned about Sarah, Tom doesn't disclose much. However, Tom is reminded of Jill's drawings of the clown contortionist and believes that a psychopath must have seen the drawings and made a mask to look like the character. Tom soon gets discharged from the hospital, and when they reach home, he asks Jill if she knows this person who is trying to harm them. Jill calmly states that Pretzel Jack is real and takes Tom to the door to show him the carcass of Pretzel Jack she picked up when she last visited her old house. It resembles a hollow, scalded mannequin. Jill explains that after she moved out from her old house, Pretzel Jack ceased to exist. However, he has now come back to protect her from getting hurt. Tom finds it difficult to comprehend Jill's story and questions why Pretzel Jack tried to hurt him. Jill reveals that she heard the baby crying when she answered Sarah's call and asks Tom to tell the truth. Reluctantly, Tom confesses that he was involved with the already married Sarah, but he ended the affair after getting together with Jill. However, he later discovered that Sarah was pregnant and believed the child was his. Sarah didn't want her husband to know, so she threatened Tom to stay away. Jill is beyond furious at this revelation, and her anger alerts Pretzel Jack, who is sleeping under somebody's patio. He puts his limbs in place and quickly makes his way to Jill's house. By the time he arrives, Jill and Tom are leaving in their car. The couple has decided to visit Jill's psychiatrist for a couple session to save their marriage. However, the session backfires when both men dismiss Jill's story about her imaginary friend. Enraged, Jill warns them that Pretzel Jack is coming and the lights start to flicker. The doctor dismisses her concerns, believing nothing will happen. But suddenly, Pretzel Jack crawls inside through the window and brutally kills the doctor in front of Jill and Tom. The couple dash out of the building and hop into Ian's truck, who is surprisingly waiting for them at the entrance. Pretzel Jack chases them for quite some time before they lose him, and Tom looks at Jill in utter disbelief. They all go to Ian's home, and she asks for a method to destroy him, to which Ian paints a gruesome picture of destroying every part of Pretzel Jack to get rid of him. But he also shares a different approach, which is to live with it and control it. Now that they know Pretzel Jack is real and Jill's creation, Ian suggests they lure him out to trap him, and then learn to control him. But for that, she will have to go through emotional turmoil. They sit in the empty room behind the dream door, and as Jill's feelings and emotions get skinned, Pretzel Jack's pace increases as he makes his way to their house. Tom walks outside the room but stops when he sees Pretzel Jack at the edge of the stairs. Just then, Jill's phone rings, and she picks it up to find it is her dad. Pretzel Jack suddenly charges towards Tom but runs past him into the room where he sees Jill, who is now calm and performs some moves to impress him. Jill smiles as she looks at Pretzel Jack, and he takes her in an embrace, making her feel safe and happy at that moment. Sarah's voice can be heard from upstairs, calling out to Tom. Tom quickly makes his way up and opens the door for her. Jill and Ian also head upstairs, but when Jill sees Sarah outside with Tom arguing, she loses her cool, enticing Pretzel Jack to go after Tom and Sarah. Sarah gets stabbed in her leg before Tom flees with her, and Jill and Ian tail them while trying to save themselves. Sarah and Tom also try to sort things out, and Tom finds out that the child is not his after Sarah got the DNA test done. So, to tell him that, she came to his house that evening. They enter a gymnasium, and Tom hides an injured Sarah in a room while he tries to lure away Pretzel Jack. Soon, a chase ensues, and they end up in the swimming pool area where Pretzel Jack tries to drown Tom yet again. Ian and Jill also reach there, and Jill panics seeing her husband in danger because of her imaginary friend. However, Ian tries to calm her down and asks her to concentrate on him so he can guide her to control Pretzel Jack. She gains control of Pretzel Jack, frees Tom first, and then with Ian's help, she crushes her creation using her mind. This results in Pretzel Jack exploding into white dust underwater. Simultaneously, Jill and Ian fall to the floor, and Jill's ear bleeds. They take Sarah to the hospital where the situation gets awkward as no one talks to each other. Sarah asks to have a moment alone with Jill and tells her that Tom doesn't have an illegitimate child with her, putting an end to Jill's suspicions. Yet, she doesn't feel at ease because Tom lied. Outside the room, Tom and Ian stand waiting, but Tom doesn't trust Ian and wanders off to avoid being in his company. He ends up meeting the detectives. Meanwhile, Jill asks Ian to give her a ride but tells him she doesn't want to go home and wishes to learn to control her mind. Ian takes her to his family's summer home, and a feeling of déjà vu suddenly engulfs Jill as she enters the house. Ian prepares the bed for her, and once she's asleep, he goes through her phone. Her dad has left dozens of messages and calls asking her to meet him. After being grilled by the detectives at the hospital, Tom returns home tired. He calls for Jill, but when no one answers, he reaches out for his phone and finds a message from Jill's dad, Bill, who sounds panicked. Bill asks Tom to tell Jill to meet him as soon as possible as he has something very important to share about his family. The scene then shifts to a motel where Bill is drinking. When he hears a knock at his door, he rushes to find it is Ian, who addresses him as Dad, indicating Jill is his half-sister. Ian despises his dad and conjures Tallboy, who gouges Bill's eyes, killing him instantly. Moments later, Tom reaches the address Bill had mentioned in his voicemail and sees Ian leaving the same motel. Tom goes into the motel looking for Bill, but the room Bill had mentioned is empty, as if he was never there. The next day, Ian starts training Jill and reveals that he created her dog, which astonishes her. After finding her phone smashed, she can't shake an inexplicable feeling and steps out of the house for some fresh air. Unbeknownst to her, Tallboy is keeping a vigil on her. Once back inside, she hears rustling from within a closet. She opens it to find a stuffed dog toy that looks exactly like the one she had when she was a little girl. Fear grips her immediately as she realizes something is very wrong, but she composes herself before Ian and says she needs to go home. Back at the house, Tom spots his dog's twin, which takes him into Ian's home. After finding no one's home, Tom snoops around and finds Jill's pictures and proof that reveals Ian is Jill's half-brother. Ian and Jill return home and find Tom inside the house with all the pictures, and he confronts Ian about it. Jill suddenly remembers why the house looked familiar because it was the same house where her dad had taken her and her mother a few times, and she had left her stuffed dog there. She puts the pieces together and is furious that he lied to her, but Ian wants her to understand he did everything for her. He takes them to show Bill's corpse in his garage, but it is half chewed by hungry dogs that are Ian's creation. Horrified by what she has just witnessed, Jill steps back and yells at Ian to stay away from her, and she calls the cops. The cops and the detectives soon arrive, and Ian confesses to killing his dad, and also takes the blame for Jason's killing. He further states that he needed the condo he lives in to be near Jill, so he put the house owners to rest. He is arrested and taken away by 2 detectives. As he is being transported, they get stuck behind a school bus and wait for it to move. Just as they are waiting, Tallboy comes from behind, holding drilling machines, and brutally kills the detectives. Jill and Tom reconcile after the time apart and realize how much they love each other. Tom steps out of the house to see Ian standing on his porch, covered in blood. Tom calls a cop who's at the neighboring crime scene, but to his horror, Ian makes Tallboy slay the cop. Tom tries to run inside, but Ian has already conjured a door behind Tom through which a red-hooded entity stares back at him. Jill calls out to Tom, but he doesn't answer. So she goes out and finds the body of the cop and a message written in his blood, asking her to meet at the ghost neighborhood. In the ghost neighborhood, Tom is seen being dragged by Tallboy into a building under construction. He stops near Ian, who has just finished eating to keep up his strength. Ian confesses that he loves Jill in a pure, uncomplicated way and believes they are connected by their abilities. This disgusts Tom, and he doesn't stay longer to hear more. As soon as he gets a chance, Tom makes a run for it, being pursued by Tallboy. Meanwhile, Jill arrives at the ghost neighborhood in search of Ian. Unbeknownst to her, hooded entities are following her. When a security guard tries to stop her, those entities attack him and stab him to death. Jill, appalled and fearing for her life, runs to hide from the hooded entities and Tallboy, who is revving his drill nearby. She manages to find Tom, but soon realizes that it's not the real Tom, but rather Ian's creation with a twisted psyche designed to resemble him. Understanding the deception, Jill flees from the fake Tom, with the doppelganger chasing her relentlessly. In a desperate move, Jill impales the fake Tom with a piece of fence, causing him to breathe his last breath. Just then, the real Tom arrives, and to prove his authenticity, he cuts himself with a nail, showing Jill his crimson blood. Relieved, Jill embraces Tom, finally feeling safe in his arms. The next day, Jill and Tom venture out into the open, hoping to escape the horrors that have plagued them. However, their respite is short-lived as they find themselves being chased once again by the relentless Tallboy. They find refuge in a nearby house where Jill focuses on conjuring Pretzel Jack while Tom distracts Tallboy. Just as Tallboy is about to attack Jill, Pretzel Jack appears, and an epic showdown between the imaginary friends of the siblings ensues. Pretzel Jack outmatches Tallboy, using his razor-sharp claws to cut Tallboy's head in half, eliminating him and ending their ordeal. With Tallboy defeated, Jill and Tom set their sights on finishing off Ian, realizing the imminent danger, tries to escape. But Jill, Tom, and Pretzel Jack pursue him to another abandoned home. Inside, Jill discovers Ian in a room filled with dozens of differently colored doors. Ian refuses to give up on Jill and confronts her, while Pretzel Jack witnesses the altercation. However, before Pretzel Jack can intervene, he is attacked by the revived Tallboy, who splits Pretzel Jack's body in half. Tom arrives just in time and joins Jill in stabbing Ian in the heart, putting an end to his reign of terror. As they deal the fatal blow, Tallboy, driven by his loyalty to Ian, rushes towards them to stop them. In a tragic twist, Tallboy accidentally impales Ian's body with his drill, causing Ian to suffer before meeting his demise. With Ian's death, Tallboy and all the doors in the room vanish. Sometime later, we see Jill and Tom as parents to a beautiful baby who has inherited Jill's ability to conjure imaginary friends. However, there is a hint of darkness as the baby's imaginary friends have the potential to become killers at any moment. And that concludes our movie recap. Thank you for watching.